Czech Game Developers Association Chairman Pavel Barâk will talk about Czech games market, its opportunities and overview of the game developer market in Czech Republic. Now I'm inviting him to join us. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
You can start when you're ready with your screen.
Okay, so hopefully you can see my presentation.
Yes, no problems.
Thank you. So, hello everyone. Thank you for the introduction. As you heard, my name is Pavel Barák and I'm a chairman of Czech Game Developers Association. And I will tell you a little bit about the Czech games market. So for a start, let's just briefly introduce what my association is. It's an industry organization that is representing the industry in Czech Republic. We've been founded 3 years ago. Currently, we have a little bit over 20 members, but that's not a high number, but we actually represent in terms of revenues or employees that are working in our companies, around 70 to 80% of the industry. So we have all the major studios that are our members. You can see their logos on the left side, some of them. We are completely privately funded, and our main goal is actually to promote the interests of the industry, to protect the industry from some unwanted decisions by the state or European Union. But our top priority is to look for new people, to get more people into the industry, and also improve the education. If you are interested in what we are doing, check out our website. So today I will be talking more about the data, we did a research and we have some data about the industry to give you like basic overview, what the market looks like. And after this talk, you should have brief overview what companies you can find in Czech Republic, what are the opportunities there, and how actually big and other factors looks like, how the market looks like. So let's start with the complete basics. Right now, we are identifying roughly nearly 120 studios in Czech Republic. Czech Republic is quite small country, it's like 10 million people, but the industry there is working very well and it's constantly growing. You can see some numbers for last few years, how it was actually improving. So last year, 7 new studios were established, the year before 11, and year before 12. So it's growing like around 10% in terms of new studios every year. And currently we are close to 120. Maybe more interesting are the revenues. So how actually we doing money-wise. So last year, the industry earned, or the turnover of the Czech game development companies was 206 million euros. But the number by itself doesn't say much. You need to compare it with something. So in a timeline, in a historical view, the industry is growing each year quite significantly. Last year in 2020, the growth was more than 17%. Year before that, it was 20%. But in 2018, which was super successful year, the industry, the year-over-year growth was more than 60%, which is crazy. In last 5 years, the industry on average growth by 25%. When we were gathering the data last year, we actually asked at the beginning of the year the prediction for 2020, and it was around 10%, but that was before the pandemic, the COVID. And so in a financial view, actually the market growth faster, so that sort of helped, but there were other issues. But I will get to that, the impact of the COVID. The prediction for this year again is around like 10%. That's what we expect. But if you compare us with other like neighbor countries, for example, the Poland, the Slovakia, Austria, Hungary, these are our like neighbors and close countries. The Central and Eastern Europe, we are doing very well. Obviously, in the region, Poland is market leader with a CD Projekt Red and Techland and 11-bit studios like that. But we are right behind them, and Poland is 4 times bigger country, so that's not that bad. Obviously, if you compare it in terms of with like Nordic countries, we have still a huge gap that we need to catch up, but we doing still pretty fine, and the growth is very significant. Overall, around like globally, the industry is growing like 9 to 10, 11% on average. And as I said, in last 5 years in Czech Republic, it was 25%, so more than double. Throughout my presentation, you will see on the left side screenshots of the Czech games. So for example, the VR hit Beat Saber, that's a Czech game. It's a Prague-based studio. So let's move on. On another slide, I got a little bit more about the people working in the industry. Right now, it's a little bit more than 2,000 people that are employed or self-employed or freelancers working in the industry. Precisely, it was measured by the end of the year 2020, and it was 2,074. But I expect that right now we could be more closely to 2,200 or something around it. Again, you can see the pretty significant growth, 17, 18% yearly. That's also visible on the graph that I got on the bottom left. As you can see, there is a new working positions open. So how many positions actually the companies created in the last year and the year before? And for last year, it was more than 300 new positions, which, considering that the industry is just around 2,000, it's a pretty significant number. And also for this year, the prediction is that maybe, or the expectations from the companies is that it's going to be maybe close to 400 new positions open, which is showing how well the industry is doing in Czech Republic, and that it's healthy and stable industry and possible like job for new employees. The problem we are facing, which probably many other countries are facing, and also other industries are facing, is that there is not enough people. We are really facing the problem of the not well-covered educational system. There is just, I don't know, like 50, 60 graduates from the game-related programs. And as you can see, we got more than 300 new positions and only like a couple dozens graduates. So there is big disproportion. We are working on that, but it takes time. So for now, the companies have to find the people somewhere else, whether it's in other industries or from abroad. I will get to the foreigner situation on the next slide. But if you look at the bottom right graph, where you can see where the current developers are getting their education, you can see that only around 20% are getting it from the formal education. So what they studied, they are actually doing in their work after the graduation. And the rest, around 80% of the people get the education in the game dev somewhere else. Usually it's like online courses. That's probably not that surprising. You can find lots of stuff on the internet, or they just get the education at the work from their colleagues. That's like quite common case, but we would like to improve the 20% number. So there are many more people that are getting the education from the formal education at schools, at high schools, at universities, and stuff like that. So on the next slide, I already mentioned the situation with the foreigners. This is what we've been quite surprised. We don't have the historical numbers. We just measured it last year for the first time, but it was quite surprising that nearly 1/3 or around 1/3 of all the employees are actually foreigners. So every third employee in a Czech company is coming from abroad. And then we actually ask the foreigners if they are coming from the EU countries, which then it's super easy to travel and start working in another country. And if they are coming outside of the EU, which would be also case for Turkey. And that comes with lots of other issues and things, like you need to get a working visa for work, and that's a process that takes time. But also we were surprised that it's like half to half, like half of the people, half of the foreigners are actually coming from the non-EU countries, and they require the visa. Therefore, we as an association trying to work quite closely with the government and state to make the process of employing a foreigner or getting the visa for the new employee faster, and get some like a faster program for getting these visa. On the last graph on this slide, you can see that what I already mentioned, there is not enough educational system currently, and so only 20% of new employees are actually graduates, like students that just finished their high school or university, usually university, and majority of them, newly employed people, are actually coming already from the job market, whether it's from other gaming studio or from other industries. So on the next slide, I'm staying with the employees and the people working in the industry, and looking a little bit more on the demographic of the situation on the Czech games market or game development market. So probably not that surprising, the industry is very male dominant. 84% people working in the industry are males, and only 15 or 16% are females. We really trying to improve that, and there is lots of activities that are trying to bring more women into games industry, which I think is quite needed. In terms of age, the industry is young, so people working in the industry is young. The average age is around 30 years, and the biggest group, the age group, is between 26 to 35 years. So again, probably not that surprising. What could be surprising, that quite a lot of people that actually are not university educated are working in industry. So it's definitely not necessary to have a university education to start working in the gaming. You could just finish high school and go on your career in the gaming industry as a high school graduate. So it's like nearly half of the current employees, actually their highest education is high school education. So that's like the overview of the people working in the industry, and how the situation looks like in the Czech gaming studios. Again, I mentioned it before, the impact of the COVID. Maybe you know the game Creeks, that's from Amanita Design, sorry. That's another very successful Czech studios. I will be talking a little bit more about them, but this was released just last year, and I will totally recommend you to try this game. But yeah, the impact of the COVID, that's not that positive. Obviously, quite a lot of studios considering it that it had negative impact on them. What's the reason? The reason are quite a few. First of them, studios had to go on the home office. The distant cooperation, communication, which turns out pretty hard and complicated things for the studios, but also the smaller, younger studios, startups, they were having a hard times to find any possible business partners, because lots of the physical events or all of the physical events were canceled, and it's very hard in an online environment to find an investor, publisher, or any business partner. It turns out to be very difficult. So these studios are considering the 2020 year as quite problematic. Also, like for the well-established studios that have games on the market, it was sort of easier because the selling numbers were good and were doing fine. But other than that, there were quite a lot of complications, even for the gaming industry. If you look at the studios more closely, that's are the three graphs I have at the bottom. You can see that in terms of size of the studios, obviously 3/4 of all the studios are just like very small, up to 10 employees or less. And that's like the majority. So the Czech market could be defined by lots of small studios, independent game development companies and such like that. We got only one company that's considered big. So they don't fit the definition of SME. SME is small and mid-sized enterprises. So we have one that is bigger, and it's Bohemia Interactive. Maybe you know them, the creators of Daisy and Arma series. So this is the only studio that's got more than 250 employees. Actually, they are around like 400 people currently working there. But 1/4 around that studios are these like from like more than 10. So not that many. And only like 10 studios are more than 100, something like that. So that's the overview of the studios in terms of their size. In terms of the years, yeah, we have quite a lot of startups, like 25% startups are companies younger than 3 years. That's usually what's considered a startup. But the biggest group, the majority, or not majority, but biggest group are studios around 5 to 10 years. So still the industry is young. Maybe what could be interesting is where actually the studios are based. So obviously we have a capital city, Prague. So 53% majority of the game dev studios are in Prague, but another big hub or center of game dev studios are in Brno, which is the second biggest city in Czech Republic. And there is like 24-25% of the studios are in Brno. Usually not that many other studios in other cities. There is some in Ostrava or Pilsen, like these bigger cities. But if you are looking for a gaming studio in Czech Republic, most likely it's going to be in Prague or in Brno. So yeah, I got then the list, and you already probably seen the screenshots. So I got here like a more specific list of the major studios. So I already mentioned some of them. I mentioned Bohemia Interactive, the biggest studio. I mentioned Amanita Design, super worldwide successful studio doing these Botanicula, Machinarium, Samorost games. I also had their screenshot or like a picture from a Warhorse Studios. That's a Prague-based studio, around 200 people, creators of the game Kingdom Come, open world RPG. One of the most successful studio actually is the best-selling game, which in Czech Republic, or like Czech created game, which is best-selling worldwide, is actually Euro Truck Simulator 2 from SCS Software. So the truck driving simulators, these are games created in Czech Republic by the SCS Software. And again, the studios like 200, 220 people based in Prague. And then we have like creators of Factorio, that's a Whoop Software, or Space Engineers, that's Kin Software House. That's for Prague, for these studios that are doing premium games for PC or console. In Brno, you got Hangar 14, creators of Mafia series. They used to be Illusion Softworks and 2K Czech, and now the studio is called Hangar 14, but they are the creators of Mafia series, super successful gaming series. And then Giants, which is like Swiss company, Giant Software, they are creators of the farming simulator, but they have pretty big branch in Brno. And in-game studios, Ashborn Games are bigger studios in Brno that have been actually recently established. So that's like the overview of the market. And as you can see, the Czech gaming studios focus on these premium PC console titles. We have a couple of mobile game developers, but they are in minority. That's not the majority how the Czech market looks like. But some of them are quite successful. For example, the Madfinger games in Brno, they created the Shadowgun games and Death Trigger and some other mobile free-to-play titles, or Jiva in Prague. So these are like the two major mobile game developers. The others, you can see them on the slide. I got like 20 to 25 minutes. I'm getting to the end. So the reason why I'm presenting this is a couple of things. If you would like to hear more about the industry, you can check the association, but we're also doing event. But more importantly, we will be coming to Turkey in a week, like in 10 days. We will be there. We will spend a couple of days in Ankara and a couple of days in Istanbul. We are bringing some of the studios with us. We're bringing guys from Warhorse, from Bohemia Interactive, from SCS Software, for example. So we're taking some of the studios there to present what we are doing, and we will try to find some cooperation with Turkish studios or the Turkish scene and communities. So we will be in Ankara doing some events and visiting studios. We are working with Bahçeşehir University in Istanbul, so we should be at the Bug Lab. So maybe some of you would be there, and you can meet the Czech gaming studios and learn more about us. And if you won't have time in these 10 days or won't be there, you can check this online conference, which is a usually Prague-based conference, and we will be presenting there more about the industry. There will be plenty of independent studios, and the conference is international, so we are also bringing lots of people, mainly from neighbor countries, Slovakia, Poland, some people from Austria, and things like that. So that's probably all from me. Last game, it's a game called Someday You'll Return from CBE Software. It's a Brno-based studio. You can check it out. It's super beautiful, and it's been created by just 2 people. And it's just like a adventure, a little bit horror, a little bit walking simulator game, and it's super beautiful. So that's another promotion for a Czech game. But that's all from me. If you want to, if you have any questions or something and you would like to contact me, here are our contacts. And thank you for listening. And I think the second half will be from my colleague, Lukâs.
Thank you, Pavel, for joining. Thanks a lot. Now,
thank you.
Now Lukâs will be joining us. Games Director Lukáš Kolek will talk about Svoboda 1945 Liberation. Now he's here. Hello, Lukâs, welcome.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me right now?
A bit. You can talk a bit louder, I guess.
Okay. Let's try it like this. Is it better?
Okay, it's better. You can start sharing your screen right now.
Last question. Can you see my screen right now?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So again, thank you for the invitation. I'm very glad that I can tell you something about our games and about our studio. My name is Lukáš Kolek. I'm a director at Charles Games. We are a relatively small video game studio based in Prague. We focus on games which are about usually some challenging topics. It could be socially challenging topics or historical topics in general. And today I will introduce you one of our games, which was very recently released. It's Svoboda 1945 Liberation. And it's a game which is about the aftermath of the Second World War in Central Europe, more specifically in the Czechoslovakia, which is the context. So today. Okay, before I start, who we are a very, compared to the other studios which are represented, we are relatively small. And we are relatively young. We are based in Barák. And our studio in general is kind of creating the games which are to some extent experimental. We work a lot with external partners or museums, educational institutions, or also commercial partners to create educational software, serious games, or basically anything related to development. But at the same time, we are creating our own games. One of the most let's say this is our most well-known game, ATTENTAT 1942, and it's a game which is distributed through all the digital platforms which are usually used, Steam, all the mobile shops, etc. The game is an adventure. It's a full motion video adventure combining a lot of styles. And what's kind of unique about it that it gives you the opportunity to actually interact with the eyewitnesses and survivors of Nazi occupation of Prague during the Second World War. So the game was very well received worldwide. It won, I think, nine international awards and was nominated for multiple other ones, like for example, Apple Design Award last year. Okay, let's continue. I see that you can't hear me properly, which is definitely not good. So, second, I just check this again. Yeah.
Sorry, Lucas, I need to interrupt you a little bit. Can you change your microphone if it's possible?
I did it right now, and now it should be better. Can you hear me properly right now?
Yes, a lot better. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, for some reason it switched to my from my headphones to my computer, which is never good. So that was ATTENTAT, and the other game which I will actually talk about the most during the today lecture is Svoboda 1945 Liberation. It's the game which was released 2 months ago, and in the game we are kind of using a similar format as for ATTENTAT, so it's a combination of many styles, but we push the format much further in the sense how it works with different game mechanics to actually simulate some historical processes. The game itself is dealing with a very turbulent period of the Czech history. It's the period between the Nazi occupation of Czech Republic and the communist coup d'etat. So the years are 1945 to 1948. And it's a full motion video adventure. And what you actually do in this game is that at the beginning, you are sent to a small village, which is called Svoboda, which is in the Czech-German border. And the thing is that you should investigate whether you should preserve some old school building or whether that building should be demolished. But very soon you will realize that that building is linked to many important events like World War II, the rise of communist dictatorship in the village, and many other events and important moments of people's life in that village, which came right after that. And also during the investigation, you will discover that in that village, you found several photographs of your grandfather. So you are trying to figure out what he was doing there, whether he was somehow involved in the violence, which came right after the Second World War. And your task is also to figure out and complete his story. What are the crucial topics which are kind of important for the story of the game? The first one, the obvious thing which was happening right after the war was the liberation, the last days of the war. And at the same time, the game itself is focusing on the aftermath of the war, in the sense that the slogan of the game is that the war is over, but there was no peace. And that is because during those 3 years, a lot actually happened, a lot of violent, less violent events, a lot of crucial things which are affecting our everyday lives in the Central Europe right now. One of these events is, for example, the expulsion of German-speaking citizens from Czechoslovakia, which happened right after the war and during the last days of the war. And it was something between 2 to 3 million of German-speaking citizens were expelled, and they had to leave from the country. And as we are a relatively small country, it represented something like almost a third of the whole population at that era. So it was a very important event for the next development, and it's still a very sensitive topic in Czech context right now. The second topic is the communist coup d'etat, so the rise of communism and resettlement after the Second World War, after the expulsions. So that's another topic which is very important to our game, and we are trying to trying to give you multiple perspectives on what actually happened and how people felt about that event. As it is obvious, the game itself is very focused on historical events, and you as a player, you can investigate them through interaction with characters in the game. But to be able to do such a game, we worked very closely with historians. We actually had on board the Czech Academy of Sciences and their department of historians. This photo is actually from 2015, if I'm right. And they worked several years to create a research on which is the game based. So they went to the archives, they worked with museum collections, they went through the testimonies, and it looked like they just consulted what we put in the game. They were internal part of the team because they were those who actually wrote the first version of the game characters, who gave us feedback on many of the games or playable memories which we put in the game. So that's kind of a unique how we collaborated with this institution, and it allows us to deal with such a sensitive topic in a very, very respectful way. How the format actually looks, we use, as I already mentioned, we are using a multiple styles. One thing which we've decided right at the beginning is that you as a player, you will interact with eyewitnesses of those crucial historical events in the present. So you talk to the people who actually lived during those turbulent times, and you ask them in present what they think about it right now, what happened to them those 60 years ago. And those parts of the game are created using the full motion video parts. So the thing is that you have to be as assertive as possible to actually get as much information as you can from these people, because then they will give you the most complex depiction of those turbulent times. So it will help you to decide what to actually do with the building and what might happen to your grandfather. So one part of the game is based on these full motion video parts. And if you talk, if you ask the right questions, those game characters will let you know something about their past. And those past memories are depicted through using, for example, here the authentic historical footage, which is from Czech National Archive, and we are using some of the footage which is not seen anywhere else in the game. The other parts or the other memories are, for example, depicted through interactive comics. This is, for example, the demonstration of, in the comics, you'll see a demonstration of the day before the elections in which the Communist Party won. And also, that's the way where we pushed the game the most, is that we have a playable memories in the game. And they represent something in which you can interact with some historical processes or the events, and you can try how would you behave or what would you do in those moments. For example, here you can see part of the, you can see the economical simulation of collectivization. Collectivization, that was the process during the reign of communists in the area, during which the communist regime was slowly forced the people with any land or estate or farms to slowly join the state-owned collective farms. So in this game, you are actually playing as one of the estate owner. You have your small farm after the war. You are trying to do the best to what you can to actually have a prosperous farm and the estate and do whatever you can. But very slowly after the coup d'etat, you will feel that there is a pressure from communist regime, and slowly in the game, the regime will force you to give up and join the collective too. So that's one of the examples of playable memories which we got in the game. Another very important principle which we are using, and which was possible due to the such amount of historians we had on board, is that we are showing the history and those events from multiple perspectives. We have different characters in the game. Those are all actors, and they are all based on some real historical personas or the real historical testimonies which were collected by our historians. So here on the picture, you can see 6 from, let's say, 7 main characters which were there. So just to give you the idea, I hope it's visible. The man on the left, that's the Mr. High, and he was a Czech, but he was a Czech of Jewish origin, who had a Czech-German ancestor, which was pretty common. He survived the concentration camps during the Second World War, and later he joined the communist movement for a moment. Here in the middle, this is Madame Rachel. She was one of the German-speaking citizens who were expelled as a child from the Czech borderlands, and she's giving you the perspective of someone who had to leave her home country very early in her life. Here, this is the Mr. Kretar. That's the man who actually he was participating in the uprising against the Nazi regime in Prague at the end of the war, and later on he joined the army to help with the expulsion in the borderlands. This is the mayor, who was actually the daughter of the man who had to, in the village, who had to join the collective farm. So that's the simulation I showed you a little bit earlier. So she had some very strong memories about what happened and how the communist regime persecuted her family. This is the Mr. Studnička. This is the local historian. He's providing you with a lot of authentic materials from that period, and he's giving you another Czech perspective on what happened. And this is Mr. Barâk, who is Volhynian Czech. Those were actually Czech who were living in today's Ukraine, who joined the army, and later on they were asked to resettle the borderlands from which the German-speaking citizens were expelled. So there were many buildings, industry, and stuff like that, which had to be taken care of. So those are just the ideas. Those are the people you will interact with, and they will all give you a different perspective on what happened. If you ask them the question about the rise of communism, or how they felt, why they decided about the things they've decided, or why they've done what they've done, they will all give you their own motivations. And all these people will give you some complementary perspectives on these events. So they kind of work together, but very often you will hear some, let's say, contradictory perspectives too. You as a player, you just have to decide what actually happened. You listen to these people, you ask them the right question, and they will let you to create the most complex picture of what happened in that period in our game. So that's the aim of this multi-perspective approach. But at the same time, it's just not enough to put the particular characters there. There must be a very complex system how we ensure that you interact with all of them, and you can decide where you're gonna go with the dialogue, what you want to discover, what you want to hear. So there is more than, I think, 9 hours of movies in the game. There's a lot of possibilities how you can interact with each of the character. And the thing is that you'll be able to ask different questions to each of them based on their history, but at the same time, they will slowly let you interact with other characters in the game to ensure that you will have the possibility to ask the right questions or your questions of interest to every character in the game. So, for example, Mr. Barâk, who is the Volhynian Czech, he can give you some information about how were the fights at the end of the war, how he came back, how he felt when we moved to the new country, even though that his ethnic origin was Czech, and things like that. And at the same time, he's got a completely different idea or completely different perspective on the communist coup d'etat, because in Ukraine, the communists at that period had a completely different image than in the Central Europe. So it's very interesting about him. The game itself is not just based on the testimonies, but you can interact with a lot of authentic materials, written journals, photographs, posters, and we also, or our historians together with us, also written a very complex encyclopedia in the game. It's completely voluntary, but if you want to know something more about some particular event, it's there, and you can decide to check it out, read a little bit more, and you don't have to leave the game to do that. About the technology of the game itself is created in Unity, but the Unity itself is originally not much ready to easily work with a lot of video materials as we do. So we have created our own set of tools, and those tools, we call them Charles Engine, Charles Filmové Engine, or Charles Engine for motion video. And the thing is that these tools help us in two ways. The first one, it really streamlined our work while we were creating and iterating all the characters with a huge amount of video material. And second, those tools are ready to be used by not programmers. So even people with a very little skill in Unity, or very limited skills in Unity, can actually use them and create the game story. So everyone in our, almost everyone in our team or development team was able to modify the game and the story and play with the general feeling of the game. And as we are a small studio, we have to always think about the monetization. So since we created 2 games in this engine, it was actually, or it looked pretty smart to actually monetize the engine itself. So that's why we are selling it on the Unity store as well, as it's another source of monetization for us. Okay, what we do next with this particular game, with Svoboda, very recently we released the iOS version of the game. We are currently working on the Nintendo Switch port for consoles, and the German translations will be released very soon. We wanted to do the German translations while together with the release, but the thing is that there are more than 150 pages of text in our game, so it takes a lot of time. We decided to release a game a little bit earlier, so we can support it on the way. And what's also an interesting question is that you can, it is obvious that this is not a mainstream genre, but I want to show you that the video game market itself is pretty big, and even for these games, there is a place to actually, let's say, generate some stable revenues for a long time. I will show you the Steam chart from ATTENTAT 1942, our first game, which was released almost 4 years ago. So it's a relatively old game. It's a premium game. So from this perspective, it's actually pretty old. This is the chart from the last year. If you are familiar with Steam right now, so you know how it actually works, that not much is happening between the sales. Here on this graph, you can see some trends. You can't see the definite numbers, but just to give you the scope, the ATTENTAT is sold in, let's say, 5-digit numbers. So those are the achievements concerning the sales. And you can see that even after these 3 to 4 years, there is still some very significant amount of revenue for us, especially during the sales. And what's important to say is that these games have a huge potential to have some long tail revenues. And you can see it, for example, especially if there are some special events. What's happening, for example, in Czech Republic is that last year, and hopefully this year too, there's something which is called Czech and Slovak Games Week. And that's the event during which the Czech Games Association is promoting Czech games on multiple platforms. It works with Steam. I think that this year they will work with mobile developers, console developers, stuff like that. And there is a huge raise of awareness of Czech games and Czech and Slovak games, of course. And the thing is that you can here see that the regular Steam sales, like a summer sale, winter sale, I think this will be the winter sale. This is the autumn sale, the red one. And this smaller part is, I think, summer sale. The custom sales worked kind of okay, but if you check the Czech Games Week sale, the Steam-wide event, that was a very crucial thing for the third year of ATTENTAT. So it helps us immensely. So, and that's for example one of the ways how your local association can help you a lot in monetization of your games. And that was just a Steam, but it's also important to say that our studio is not just built on the Steam revenues, but you can say that our games got some educational value since they were well researched, and all the materials involved in the games are based on very well grounded research methodologies. So our games are also sold to international educational institutions who are using them to educate about the Central European history, or some ways how the conflicts are affecting civilians and stuff like that. So that's another stream of revenues for our company for these particular games. And if you count totals with mobile platforms and stuff like that, it's actually something based on what I can say, that there is a place for these games on our market. And a part of it, we are also collaborating with many other external partners to develop smaller games about particular issue. So for now, I would like to thank you for your attention. As Pavel already mentioned, it's not going to be me next week, but it's one of my colleagues will also travel to Turkey. He will spend some time in Istanbul and also in Ankara, and he will participate in all the related events. So if anyone of you wants to ask us about anything, or wants to know something about our games, engines, or the stuff that we do, that there's going to be a very nice possibility to do that. If you want to know something more about our company, just you can definitely follow us on Twitter or our other media and other social media. And for now, that's it for me. So thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions or anything like that.
Thanks a lot, Lukâs. We don't have any questions from our attendees right now. Thanks a lot for joining us for your presentation.